travel nurses, traveling professors, undergrads. We're getting a combination of tenants. And the reason why we stand out is the quality of our work and the furnishing compared to all the other midterm rentals out there. When you are keeping at a high quality, you're going to get high quality tenants.
You guys talk about what your process looks like for raising capital and how you've been able to raise $8 million last year.
Rather than feeling shameful that we're like asking people for money, it's more like we're giving them the opportunity to invest their money and make double digits on their investment rather than just them having in their savings account. We got our first private money lender when we got into Indiana, and that was from a friend who I played basketball with, who I did not know had money. He didn't look like he had money, but he somehow had like 100 carry sitting in the savings account. There are people out there that I never thought had money, but they probably do. And I should just let them know, like, hey, we have opportunities. Are you interested? That's been how able to get more and more people to be interested in lending.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of The Lowdown. Today, I'm joined by Grace and Michael Santos. They are the definition of a power couple. They built a successful out-of-state flipping and midterm rental business while still balancing demanding careers. Michael was a nurse, shout out to the Filipino Mafia, and Grace was a practicing therapist. I think she still is. Together, they've raised $8 million in private capital in 2025 to fund their own deals. So welcome, guys, to the show. I really appreciate you guys coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, of course. Before we talk about the $8 million that you guys raised last year, I really want people to understand who you guys were before any of that. You were both working full-time, building on the side, figuring out as a couple. So can you just walk us through what those early days really looked like and what led you to real estate in the first place?
Yeah, so we originally started back in 2021. During that time, I was a travel nurse, so I was up in Oregon. When we decided to go into real estate investing, we just thought that we just need something where, we could make way more money than our salaries. So, real estate investing is something where it's, of course, a huge risk, but there's such a high upside to financial freedom. So that's literally how we started. So I was a nurse, she was still a married family therapist when we decided to do this.
Yeah, I think we both came from backgrounds where, the message is you go to school, get a job, and then you become a really good worker. So we were both really great employees, in my background I worked in residential care for a bit. So it was round the clock and you put a lot of time, and we started seeing the amount of effort and time we were putting in wasn't being appreciated. And so we really started to look at how can we utilize what we know and do something that will help grow our wealth and take care of us, since we're so used to taking care of other people in our professions.
Mm-hmm. Did you guys take this on together early on? Was it Grace or Michael who leaned into this more early on? Yeah, can you talk about that?
I think probably I found the ad for the coaching program, and then I was like, hey, this sounds interesting. Why don't we sign up for it? And then I think he just kind of was like, all right.
Yeah, we basically, what the situation was, I just finished my contract as a travel nurse up in Portland. So we were basically doing a 14-hour drive from Portland back to our home in California. And that was the same day that this free seminar web call for just real estate mentorship program happened. By the time we got back to California, we paid $15,000, and that was just at the beginning. It took us 6 months of literally just absorbing all the knowledge of how to do real estate investing, how to find a deal, how to scope of work, contract, all that stuff, before we found our first out-of-state property in Oregon that we were able to flip, and we were ready to cash flowing at that time.
Did you guys have any disagreements early on about how you guys viewed money or risk or time, anything like that? You guys were always kind of just aligned from the get-go?
Oh, not at all.
No. I mean, in the end, it's kind of whatever she decides is the right way to do it.
Happy wife, happy life.
I had my input. Yeah, I had my inputs, but in the end, it's up to her.
Yeah, we had different upbringings, and so I think that shaped also our relationship with money and the examples of people in our life. So I grew up seeing my dad as an entrepreneur, and so that was also something I always strive to be, in terms of, okay, work hard, maybe save some money, and then I can open something with that. Where Michael came from a background of surviving. So thinking about investing and actually putting money down and investing in yourself and growing something and not having a W-2 for the rest of your life was a big mindset shift for him as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going to ask, were there any views or thoughts about money that you guys had to unlearn early on after getting into this?
I mean, it really is for me. Like, I truly believed just from the people that I grew up with that, you work 60 to 72 hours a week until like you retire. Hopefully you retire, but basically like living month to month. Like, I never saw anybody like save money. I never saw anybody like invest into something. All I saw was like you make enough money to pay like next month mortgage or next month rent because who owned the house? Like, no one owned the house that I knew of. And so that was basically my mindset the entire time. And it took me, like maybe last year or like early this year to actually realize like I can actually do this. So it been a struggle for me, but I think this had been like the last year or so that I was able to 100% flip my mindset on this.
Yeah, it's interesting upbringing that we have and how it affects our viewpoint on just like everything finances. Like growing up, my mom's like, pay your house off as fast as possible. She has this house that she has like a 2% interest rate on. Even now, she dumped as much money as she could into it. Like looking back now, she's like, I wish I didn't do that. I wish I put that money to something else because I could use the equity to do other things. And so she's just like, you need to pay off your condo as soon as possible. But now I'm like, I don't even want to own a house anymore. I just want to rent and then invest everything else.
Right.
It's just insane how ridiculous it is.
Pay it off on the house, right? And then that's supposed to be security, but then it keeps you limited in what you can do, right?
For sure. What advice would you give to couples who are maybe not aligned, or maybe they have one partner who's like more all in than the other person?
I think to start with, what are the obstacles, right? Like with the differences, to look at where's the misalignment, and usually it's underneath it is fear. And so figuring out what's the obstacles and what's the resources or information that the other person needs in order to feel comfortable, right? Because we always feel nervous or anxious about something we don't have information on. And so allowing the other person to learn, be patient, get information. And that's really what we did, was like, okay, why do you not agree with this? Like, who do we need to talk to? What information do we need to get forward? And we still implement this, even if we disagree on a deal that, we might not see eye to eye on.
And there's been like multiple times. Even now, we're still like disagreeing on like whether we should go forward on the deal or not. I always thought that Grace was more conservative than I was, but I thought like more recently she's becoming willing to take more and more risks while I'm trying to become more and more conservative. But ultimately, it's just the numbers, right? Like, we can't, in the end, like when it comes to real estate investing, it's like you got to take the emotions out of it, and the number just have to work. So if the number doesn't work, it doesn't matter if we think it's going to be a good deal. If there's no evidence of it, we just have to like agree to move on or agree to move forward.
Yeah. And I would say like the systems, even if the deal looks good, what are the systems in place that we have to actually execute it? For us, like we're not in the boutique hotel space. I know you're going into that, right? If someone brought us a deal, it looks great, but we'd be like, we don't have a system to execute this, right?
Yeah, I think it's good to have those checks and balances and not be emotional, like you said, because at the end of the day, you got to really be okay just saying no to things. I think that's the most important thing. Early on, I myself was like more of a yes man, but I think it's more important to be like a no person and realize like when it doesn't make sense to take on things. How do you guys decide who takes on like each role in your business and who's like the key decision maker for aspects of it?
Yeah, so that's something that that's still a work in progress for us. We all have our strengths and weaknesses. I mean, Grace is very detail oriented and she's very good at like, the financial side of it. I'm more into like the communication, dealing with contractors, dealing with tenants, the hospitality part. So we just all have like our strengths and weaknesses. We have as a vision and responsibilities for our company. There have been many times where like we overtake one another or we step into it, like to other person part of the business, but we're slowly getting to where we truly understand what part of the business we handle.
Yeah, because something I think we got caught up in the beginning, and sometimes I think probably with partnerships, if you go in wanting everything to be even and equitable, but sometimes it doesn't work out that way. Like sometimes somebody is better at something and you don't need to learn how to do that, and just let the other person take, kind of drive the ship. In the beginning, we were trying to learn each other's roles because we were trying to think like, well, if you're doing too much of this, how can I help and step in? But then it actually made it more difficult. So we really learned early on of don't try to learn each other's roles. You should just know enough of like what their role and what they're doing, but to allow each person to kind of take charge of what they're good at.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I'm really trying to lean into that too. I mean, I've had a couple partnerships early on where there'd be a task to come up and be like, oh, I can help with this also. And it's just like, it doesn't really make sense. It makes it more counterproductive as opposed to just like letting one person just really shine at that one thing and letting them, just exponentially get better or focus on that one thing. Yeah, I want to switch up gears here and just talk about midterm rentals and why you guys decided to choose that. There's so many different avenues you can choose. You can choose flipping, wholesaling, all that. So why midterm rentals and how did you choose out-of-state investing?
Yeah, so when we first got into real estate investing, we are ultimately only thinking about flips. Like we're just going to do nothing but flips because our mentor, the coaching program was Tariq El Musa. He does, Flipper Plus back in HTCV. So that was the only thing we ever thought of. I never thought about, any rental of any kind. But it wasn't until, we did a couple flips in Oregon and we kind of felt stagnant. We weren't finding any more deal that we started looking into other states, but also it was Sarah Weaver. I don't know if you know Sarah Weaver, but she is like
Midterm rental?
Yeah, exactly. She did a call on Target was just like, her one of the web call, and she sold us on it. And so we started looking into landlord friendly states. We narrowed it down to we're like in Philadelphia or like Pennsylvania at one point. And then we saw Indiana. And then Indiana, we started, looking at what were growing cities. We looked at a couple of cities there, Indianapolis, Terre Haute. We ultimately landed in South Bend, specifically because of the University of Notre Dame. We saw it as a short-term rental. And so that's how we got into Indiana. And the midterm rental happened as we started seeing, like travel nurses come there, traveling professors come there. And that's where we started seeing okay, this is potentially, we found a niche. We found another part of real estate investing that we can thrive in. And so that's how we started doing it.
So before this, how many flips had you done?
We only did 2.
Okay.
So we did one in Oregon. That was the first one back in 2021. And then we did another one in 2022. And that summer of 2022, when we sold that second flip, we just couldn't find any deal. Then we looked into short-term rentals and we got 3 properties in Indiana, in December of 2022.
Yeah, I think it's awesome that you guys pivoted because everyone always talks about shiny object syndrome and avoiding it, right? And even myself, I had done 3 flips up to this point, and now I'm pivoting into hotels. And yes, I agree that it's important to stay in your lane for one thing, but also at the same time, it's I think it's also worse to stay in something for 5 years to realize that you end up hating it and it's not really aligned with your vision. And so I think just in life in general, it's important to just try things, and that's how you figure out what you like and don't like. So for anyone who's listening who wants to try different things, I say go for it because that's really how you figure out what you do and don't like. And so I don't know how your experiences have been with midterm rentals, but is it much better than flipping?
I mean, we still do both.
Yeah.
And just before, when we pivoted after we educated ourselves on midterm rentals. We just didn't decide one day to do it. We actually had to learn about it, the pros and cons and all that stuff before we actually pivoted. So it wasn't a spontaneous thing other than a spontaneous first to start learning about it. But in regards to the flipping, we approach every deal that we see as whether we can flip it or we can rent it. So that way, we have multiple exit strategies when we see a deal.
Yeah, we kind of just took the foundation of flipping and just in a way expanded on it. So we, instead of just flipping it short term where you just renovate and sell it off, we decided, okay, well, we can build up the business, get a tenant in, and we can in a way flip the business and the house while we're appreciating the property. And some of the properties, if we don't decide we want to rent it out, we can also flip it there. So we were able to kind of use that strategy and expand on it in that market.
How do you decide at the end, or at what point during the project that it's a better idea to keep it as rental midterm or flip it? Is it just something that you guys decide from the beginning?
Not really. So when it's always about the seasons of the market as well, because let's say like if we find a deal and we're finished with renovation and it's like the winter time, we know that Indiana is snowing. People usually don't want to buy a house during like the winter, like when it's really cold. And so if the project is finished at that time, we see that as like, okay, we can just rent it for the meantime. And then when summer hits, we can like assess it again at that time. So it just really depends on when the project finishes. But we saw that if we were to finish the project and furnish it as if we're going to keep it as a rental, we can potentially flip it, showing that, hey, if you're an investor looking for a turnkey rental that's furnished and everything ready to go, you can buy our house because it's already set up to do short-term, mid-term rental.
What's your buy box or ideal house that you look for in Indianapolis?
So in South Bend specifically, where Notre Dame is, we specifically look for the smaller houses. Of course, like the more rundown, the better. Of course, at a price that it needs to be. And the reason we like that is because we have our standards of how we want a property updated and renovated. So we have a certain quality, which also is what helps us stand out when we go to rent it and when we go to sell it. They know that we have permits, we have, electrical, plumbing, those things that are needed to be updated, roofs. So we're not just slapping on paint and getting a landlord special. So we make sure like those things are up to date. So that's why we want to really run down. The other thing is added value. So because we know the areas where it's developing, we can analyze it looking at, okay, if we finish up a basement, how much extra on rent and value does that add? As well as if we're doing a new build, in what areas that those are actually going to be marketable. So we do a lot of research and data gathering into what neighborhoods we want. We have like basically a very niche neighborhood that we buy in. So we don't really venture outside of that as well.
That's good. I think it's very important to have a strict buy box. So you guys, just sum it up. You guys do development, you guys do additions to homes, and then you also do like lighter ones. Is there one specific one that you see better returns on?
Not really. We're doing our first new build, so we're still like within the permitting process on the new build. We've been doing more of additions, and addition I think have been, I guess, our most successful, right? Because in South Bend, a lot of houses are like 2 bedroom, 1 bath, and I mean that's a really small home, especially like it was 700 square foot. And one of our first properties that we bought there, we turned into a 4-2. We like finished the basement, we added 2 more bedrooms and 1 more bathroom, and like that alone, we were able to, I had 95% occupancy for midterm and short term. We were able to ultimately sell that home for a 6-figure profit. And I still managed that property. So the person who bought it from us was someone who is an alumni from Notre Dame, saw what we did with the home, and saw the potential for it to, be a short term as well as whenever they're visiting to watch a football game. And so like he bought that based on what I was able to accomplish, but what we're able to do with our home, which is value add.
Mm-hmm. How's the permitting and like bureaucracy out there? I mean, us being from California, we know it's a nightmare. And like, unless you're like in San Diego where they're really pushing like additions and all that, up here in the Bay Area, they can definitely tell you like 6 months to a year for any of the permitting and all that. I don't know how it is in South Bend.
Same day.
Yeah, so there's pros and cons. You can get a permit, you can walk in and get one. However, because it is a developing area and people are putting more money investing into the city, that means the building department is also kind of updating and revamping things almost monthly. So you really need to kind of be on top of what they're changing. A really good GC to know if they're changing codes, because if you start something and they change it, then you might have to rip it out. Luckily, we have a really great GC who is always up to date on things. But it can be easy, but you also need to make sure that you're staying informed on what you need to do.
Yeah. It's nothing like California. It's like same day, maybe like.
Yeah, I would say on a remodel, like,
Yeah.
If you're changing zoning, if you get more complicated, that could maybe take, maybe a couple of weeks to months.
A couple of weeks for changing zoning? That's crazy. California sucks.
And that's why I'll never want to touch California again.
Yeah. Well, that gives me a lot of hope and hopefully makes people realize that out of state is the way to go. What's the ideal avatar that you try and get for these midterm rentals? Is it nurses? Is it workers? Is it insurance people? Like, what's the ideal person?
It's a combination. So like I've been fortunate to have been able to build a network of like insurance companies, Amazon, who they're building a data center there, travel nurses, traveling professors, undergrads. Like we're getting like a combination of tenants. And the reason why we stand out is again, like the quality of our work and the furnishing is what makes us stand out compared to all the other midterm rentals out there. When you are like keeping at a high quality, you're gonna get high quality tenants. I think that's been yeah, it's just basically been a combination, but they all been great.
Yeah, they like most of them ideally they work, so they're gone most of the time. They don't really they're not there to vacation in South Bend, right? Like to have a great big party. So they take care of the house. They're very low maintenance. And then insurance, like, they pay double, sometimes almost triple the long-term rent. So they're really great to work with and paying on time. I would say like majority of our clients have all been really awesome.
Yeah.
Besides listing the houses on like travel platforms like Furnish Finder or Airbnb, like what are some other ways that you guys find these tenants?
Ultimately, so for me, they find me. I get calls from insurance company, temporary housing. I get calls from basically like travel, like they said, like travel professors, Amazon worker. So I haven't really been like publishing our properties out there. And because again, like I did build this like network. So the first travel nurse that I got, she ended up referring someone else to us. She ended up referring us to the hospital, like to like, the hospital where they do travel nursing. And so like I already got our property out there. It's really just been networking, really. Of course, the Furnish Finder. We have Furnish Finder. That's been our main, but everything else has just been word of mouth.
Yeah, that's awesome. Referrals is the way to go.
Yeah.
So, how many midterm rentals do you guys have at this point?
Currently 3. I mean, we sold off a couple throughout the years. And then we have two more that are coming up.
3 more.
3 more. And then the new build that we will probably, we could keep it as a midterm,
Yeah.
or we can flip that one. So we probably try to keep an average of probably 2 to 3 solid running ones each year. And then we kind of assess the rest if we want to sell them.
Yeah. Because I'm running them and I don't want to run so many at a time. They eventually, maybe they'll be to a point where like I hire a property manager, but at this point, I'm truly seeing like quality over quantity. So like I mean, if we are at like 10 doors and we're like getting the same amount of rent as we do, what we're doing right now, I'll hand it out to a property manager. But as of right now, like 2 to 3, maybe 5 at most, I'm good with.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I want to talk about how you've been able to scale up and get this. I mean, private money lending is something that's huge and allows other people to grow and scale without using your own money, right? OPM, other people's money. So can you guys talk about what your process looks like for raising capital and how you've been able to raise $8 million last year?
Yeah, so I mean, honestly, when we first started real estate investing back in 2021, we used our HELOC to buy our first out-of-state property. Thinking of like asking people for money was just so weird. It wasn't until 2022, right? 2022 when we joined Amy Majority's RPM program that we start actually learning about the value of using other people's money. And so for me, it's more now like rather than feeling shameful that we're like asking people for money, it's more like we're giving them the opportunity to invest their money and make double digits, on their investment rather than just them having in their savings account. So it's more of like it's no longer us showing like, us looking like beggar, just like, hey, like we had this opportunity, like join us. And that's been like the change from how I went from like like we got our first private money lender when we got to Indiana, and that was from a friend who I played basketball with, who I did not know had money. He didn't look like he had money, but he somehow like had like 100 carry, like sitting in his savings account. And so like he was like he's the one who changed my mind, like my mindset, like, oh, there's people out there that I never thought had money, but now but they probably do, and I should just ask. I should just let them know, like, hey, we have opportunities. Are you interested? And then that's been how able to like get more and more people to be interested in lending.
Yeah, I love what Amy said at the conference earlier in December or early November when she's like, you never know who's going to have money. It could be an Uber driver, right? It's like you always got to be raising capital because you never know who's going to come from. And so I know you said your first friend was from the basketball player, but did you build a lot of trust with other people first, like through social media before starting to ask for more people or outside of your network? Or like what did it look like more in that early days of raising capital after that first one?
Yeah, I think it was a lot of, so as they're building your business, because we're only like 4 or 5 years in. So like, it's important to document your process because you just never know who's watching. And that really is your credibility. So when we first got that lender, that was exciting. Like he was basically our first one to be able to show, hey, like, this is how much return we've been able to get back to him. So sharing about that, sharing about our projects, right? When people see something that is valuable and they can tangibly see what's happening and also like see your follow through, then people start to reach out. So yeah, like we'll get people through social media, like friends who are like, hey, like tell me more about what you're doing. How can we be involved? And a lot of people, they don't want to actually be the one doing the work, right? They're totally fine with parking their money and just letting it grow. And especially when they can grow their money at double digits versus like what is it right now in the savings, like 3.5% maybe.
Yeah, I think SoFi is like 3.3.
There you go.
Yeah. And so when you start just sharing the knowledge and sharing what you can do to help them, then they get excited. And that's really what it's about because, yeah, we can go to the bank, but it's so much nicer when you can help build other people's wealth, right? And then you get to also see them become investors and get their own properties. So it's really about sharing what we're doing. And Michael's really great about always networking. And so the way he implements his system in getting the tenants for our rentals is the very same way he also networks for PMLs. Like immediately when he meets somebody, he gets their info and, and I'm trying to practice that better. And then because I'll forget people's names, but, he shoots them out a message right away because that's how you build relationships and trust. And, we only do business with people that we know and trust.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what does that first message look like? Say you met someone at a brand new event, at a social networking event, or you met them at McDonald's or In-N-Out. Like what's that first message?
Yeah, so honestly, like I don't have a like, a word for word automated message that I would send out. The one thing that I've learned, like Amy always has like that feel, right? Like I can help you like make double digit on your investment backed by real estate. That's a great like one sentence. But for me, it's also like I want to build a relationship with this lender, right? So the first thing I talk to them about is like, hey, like what are your goals? What do you want to do? Like, are you just looking to like, do you want to become a real estate investor? Do you want like it's about like listening and like learning about that person, and if once you know that person, then you can see how you can help them. So I don't really have like this automated message. I really don't. I just say like, hey, like I think the best example was the guy playing basketball, right? Like when he became a lender for me, he saw the social media and he just asked me like, oh, so like how are you finding these deals? And I'm like, this is how I find them. He's like, oh, well, I'm very interested in like learning how to like invest in real estate. Ultimately, he just like, oh, that sounds like a hard work. How about I just give you my money and you can just give me interest. So like it's just more of like just learning what the needs are.
Mm-hmm. I think you're just a lucky charm because even with the insurance agencies, like no one's, you're not coming to anyone. They're all coming to you, right? So I think you're the lucky charm, Michael.
I don't discriminate. I even like Airbnb guests. Like I save their number and I like slowly like put it in there like, hey, like if you're like interested in lending, you know, I can help you out. So like I every person that I meet, I don't know what their story is. I don't know how much money they have. And so the best way for me to find out is to ask them. Slowly but surely, not like, like ask them point blank, but like slowly build that relationship so I can see if I can help them or not.
Yeah, I think it is good to feel them out first, figure out what their goals, and ultimately listen first before going straight to the numbers, because that's immediately like, oh, spam, or oh, I'm not going to listen to that person. What like numbers do you actually say? I know you say double-digit returns, but do you actually say I'm going to give you 12%, 15%, or you just say double-digit kind of initially?
I do say double digit. Because thing can change, right? All about the deal. Depending on the margin, it could be like 10%. Depending on the margin, it could be like 20%. Of course, it's not gonna be like that, but it's hard for me to give a number other than just saying it double digit. Because no matter what, I don't want to give them anything less than double digit. I know we're always gonna be higher than a high yield savings account, but double just sound better. Yeah, there's no number other than I think double digit sound good.
Yeah, it's always better to under promise, over deliver.
Exactly.
Yeah. So when you're setting up your promissory notes and structuring them, do you still just put like a range? I'm just trying to think about like how you tactically do it, like on a promissory note.
Oh, so the way that I do it is whenever we have a deal, I create like a one page where I tell them what the deal is, what the terms are, like, like how much we're operating, the length of time that we need this loan, the proper information, and I just send that out. So what I do is when I have someone that's interested in lending, I get their email address and I send them out one pager saying like private money lending opportunity, first come, first served. If you're interested in this deal, here are the numbers for it. Give me a call if you want to do it. And when I do that, I get these people who not only that, but I build urgency when I do that first come, first served. Because by then I build my rapport, I build like an understanding of like how a private money loan works, and they're just ready to just put in their money whenever an opportunity comes up. So each deal is different. I send out a one pager for every kind of deal we have.
And that sets up also the expectation. So like prior to that, there's the work of already letting them know, you'll get a newsletter or a one pager and it'll, kind of show you the deal and what the offering is, an opportunity. By then they already kind of know like what a sample promissory note will look like. So once they commit to that, that's when we send out a promissory note or a mortgage for them to review it that has like the terms. So there's like a whole process that they know what to expect and then that we can set up so there's a flow to it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So how many people do you have on this like investor database or list that you have? Is like 100,000?
No.
I would say like 40, 50-ish.
Okay. So they all get this newsletter and they all get the one pager whenever you have a new deal.
Whenever we have a deal, I would send it to them. I would also send them a follow-up showing that this deal had been taken. And so like it showed that, hey, like, these deals don't last forever. There was a deal where I sent it out and then like maybe 5 minutes later, we already locked in the lender and I just sent out like, hey, it's no longer available. Again, it creates that urgency. And I feel like that shows like the lender that they need to act fast.
Mm-hmm. Are there any like lenders that when you're screening them, like any red flags that you're like, oh, even if they offer this money, I don't even want to have them lend to me because it's going to be a nightmare. Like, I don't know if you have any stories like that or any things that you like pick up on now where like you wouldn't take money from a certain individual.
Yeah, I would say, luckily, I don't think we engage if there's like, completely shady. It's like if they're like, trying to evade something. But we look for like their commitment level and those things start even from if we like schedule a call. And if they follow up on it, right? If we say we're going to talk at this time, if they follow through on it, because that starts showing us trust if we can trust you at the closing table. Because the last thing you want is someone to say, oh, yeah, we're good to go. And then they pull out last minute because then they're not really respecting and understanding your process as well. So those are kind of the small things in the beginning when we're, kind of vetting our PMLs. Sometimes, you probably have experience with. Too.
Like ultimately, like we're interviewing them to be like, hey, like, because again, we're offering the opportunity. It's not like we're like there are times when they're interviewing us, which makes sense because this is their money. They want to make sure that whatever they're investing to is like they're safe and they don't have to worry about it. But there are some where like they asked about like catastrophic things, like, what if like the house burned down, what if the market crashes, things like that. It's understandable. At the same time, though, knowing the background of this person, where like they spend money like mindlessly at like Vegas or something, like I tend to sit through people that I actually want to work with. So there are people who have like said, "Oh, I'm willing to lend money to you," that I just said like, "No, it's okay."
Yeah.
Unfortunately, only been like one or two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was listening to a podcast with like Rich Summers, and he was saying how sometimes the people who are willing to invest the most ask the least amount of questions are the easiest ones, whereas like the people who are like, obviously this may be their life savings, are like trying to nickel and dime everything and are like the most headache, like they're asking so many questions, constantly trying to have control and all that. I don't know if that's been true for you guys, but yeah, that's just one thing he mentions.
Yeah, we've been fortunate that all of our lenders have been so easy to work with. And that's because we build rapport, right? We build the trust that we're not going to take their money and run away. We're very transparent as to where their money is going to. We even say like, hey, whenever you wire out the money, it's going to go into an account where you can view it and see what that money happening with that money. So we're very, very transparent as to like what's happening with the money.
Mm-hmm. Is that a specific platform, or is it just like a regular banking account and you give them access?
Chase? Yeah, we just use a Chase view only checking account.
Yeah, any of us think your accounts, like you can create like a view only, so they can log in. I can honestly say we've done that and nobody had
No one cares.
logged in.
Yeah. But just giving that opportunity for them to see it, right? It just shows like, hey, like we're as transparent as possible, and they're like, oh, okay, and then they trust us from that point forward. And I will say, like, we're very fortunate that of all our deals that we've done, we paid our lenders out with their interest, and never once had to like say like, oh, we can't pay you out. Like we've been 100% like paid you guys out.
That's awesome. Have you guys had any deals that gone bad where you guys missed out on and took a loss, even though because you paid them first?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I know not everybody is gonna, do their business model that way, but that's kind of also like part of our business value. And, when we're underwriting, we do look at worst case, right? Worst case scenario, what happens, but we prioritize them to make sure they're paid out. And at the end of the day, we can always go out and get more deals and make that up. But when you break a promise, like to us, that's really important. So if we promise we're going to pay back at a certain time and this is how much, then we want to follow through on that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's most of your investor base, mostly friends or family, or are they kind of just like touches that you've just known for a long time? Maybe you haven't talked to them for like 10 years.
You know what? It's been a mix of friend, family, people we met in a mentorship program, people who we haven't spoke to. Like I have like a high school friend that just reached out for the first time in like 17 years. So like, because they're watching us on social media, like social media is so powerful in that, you're adding people you haven't seen in like, 10 plus years, and they see your stories and they see your reels, and you guys connect because like they're interested in investing.
Mm-hmm. So if you guys had to raise $1 million in the next 90 days, you didn't have the systems that you're starting from beginning, you didn't have the Airbnbs to message old guests or anything like that, like what would be your framework? Would you just pretty much go down your list of everyone on your phone, just do that cold message? Like what would be your tactical steps to do it?
If we needed $1 million in 90 days, and we didn't have the knowledge and system that we had now, like what are we with the? Do I even trust myself to even like raise that money? Because I don't even,
We would start meeting people and then I would explain the details and numbers.
Yeah. So that's the one thing. I would be the introduction, and she'll be the one to close them.
She's a closer.
She's the closer, because in the end, like I'm someone who's like, I like simple details, like show me pictures, where like she's like, here are the numbers, here like, like all that stuff. And so,
But to break down, I guess, like if you were to start the ground running and you need to meet that goal, I mean, really the first thing is, you need people in your phone book. So if your phone book only has about 5 people you talk to, then you need more people. So, reality is you need to go out and network. So anywhere, right? There's PMLs you can meet at the coffee shop. your gym, anywhere that there is a human being, to start meeting them, letting them know what you do, what you offer. Because even if they don't have, funds to invest, they might know somebody who's interested.
Right.
And that's really the power of networking and building relationships, is you just never know. So yeah, if you needed, start scheduling calls, getting their numbers, and, we're probably setting a meeting up every single day.
Yeah. Every lender I've spoken with, either through text or through email, I always say like, hey, if you know anybody who's interested in lending, we'll give you a binder fee. Like that, always like bringing that up. And so like, yeah, I met people at the gym who end up becoming lenders. I met people like at a coffee shop who end up like getting more interested into like real estate investing. And it's all like how you present yourself. Like I'm wearing my RPM shirt, right? Like in the back of my RPM shirt, it says like, learn how to make double digits on your investment, right? So it's things like that. Like you just need to constantly be presented as someone who has something to offer to someone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, do you have like 100 of those shirts? Do you just like wear the same shirt every day?
No, I attract people by my shoes. So like the shiny objects, right? Like I have like very colorful shoes that like it starts a conversation, and then I can start from there. Like Grace started realizing how powerful that is. Like she's now wearing colorful shoes or like shiny shoes.
Yeah, I was used to like just the neutral colors because I didn't like to stand out. But then it really it was a good point. Like people start to notice you, but it becomes a starter, like conversation starter, right? And then when you meet someone, of course, the first couple questions like, oh, what do you do? Right. And then naturally they ask you back. And then, it's an easy segue in.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, you got to stand out somehow. Like Ryan Pineda, he used to have his hair dyed a different color. I don't know if you know who he is. He was a big flipper. He had his hair dyed, and you guys have your colorful shoes. I'm trying to think what I could do to stand out. Just bring my dog everywhere and maybe dye her hair.
Lorenzo and the dog.
Oh.
Right. Yeah. Get your dog an RPM shirt.
There you go. That'd be awesome. So I want to go back to, I know we talked about the W-2 earlier, but like, what did those days look like when you're both working full time before you quit your job, Michael? Like, were you guys just moonlighting? Like, how were you guys being able to like build this business while still working full time?
No sleep and just constant anxiety. Well, like for me, when we started, it was right during COVID. So I basically moved my practice completely to at home. So virtual sessions. But in between, literally, sessions are about 53 minutes long, and then you got a chart right after. So right in between those 5 minutes, that's when we would be catching up on everything, looking at deals. Sometimes I'm literally signing a closing document in between sessions. And then after you clock out at the end of the day, then we're looking at the scope of work, figuring out, how much our budget is, looking at deals, managing projects. It was constant.
It was, because we were in Indiana, which is like Eastern time zone, there are times where we get calls like at 3 a.m. from our GC, like, oh, I'm going to buy this supplies. We need to bring in funds, or like he has questions on like our design. So there was a moment in time where like we wake up at 3 a.m, then we work out. At the same time, we're still like texting our GC while we're working out. And then I go to work at 7. And then from 7 to like 3 or 7 to 7, depending if I'm working overtime, I'm also like on my phone, like whenever I have a chance to like respond to all the missing texts that I got during that time that I'm working. So it's just really been like just nonstop. Like we really didn't have free time.
How did you guys prevent burnout? That's one thing I struggle with too. And like, I think most of us who are doing this entrepreneurship is like, how to shut your brain off. Like when I'm always thinking to myself, like I feel guilty just sitting here and watching TV, right? Like I'm always like, I need to be productive at all times. And it's definitely exhausting. So I don't know how you guys navigated that or what you have for tips.
He's shaking his head. Early on, I would just say we just survived and worked while we were burnt out. But I remember one thing earlier our mentor had said is just like the stress and the challenges don't get easier. Like they don't lessen. You just learn how to manage it better, like your tolerance. And like as a therapist, that's also like what we talk about our clients is like you manage your emotions by building a bigger window of tolerance, right? You have to deal with anxiety. You have to deal with sadness, all these emotions. So similarly in our business is we've learned to just like build up our tolerance. And I think those earlier years really helped us figure out, what works. But going through that now, when things come up, we're like, okay, we've gone through this before, right? What's our system for this? And so building up systems as you're going, having a support system. Like in the beginning, it was just a couple people we can reach out to. But when we're struggling now, it's like, we can reach out to, DJ and Amanda and, our mentors and be like, this is what we're going through. And they can help support us through. But then, yeah, like you were saying, like sometimes you do need to have a bit of that downtime. And I think we're always going to feel guilty because we're driven people. But it's just, okay, I feel guilty and I'm going to just watch this TV show for 15 minutes, right? And just allow that break anyways.
Yeah. I mean, I have a PS5 that I'm touching like 5 minutes a month. Like I don't know how to, I guess like it really is just a system where like eventually you can like time block where you can actually like have some downtime. But then I also think like, oh, if I have downtime, then I have time to like buy more deals. And so like, it really just becomes like real estate investing just becomes your entire life, right? You wake up, you look for deals, or you work on your current deals, you go back to sleep. That's basically been our lives, with our W-2 as well. So like we put, even in our W-2, we're thinking about real estate investing. So yeah, burning out is just something that comes with this. And there's no way we never learn how to get rid of it.
Yeah.
So.
But I would say having your non-negotiables also in your day, like, for us, it is like going to the gym.
Walking our dogs.
Yeah, like walking our dogs. Like those two things, like we can't give up in the day.
Yeah.
And those like help us survive.
That's why I can't imagine people with kids. Like, how do they do it?
I know. That's why I'm trying to do this all now because my wife and I are going to start trying for her family later this year. So I'm like, I need to get all this done. So it's good and bad because now I feel a lot more pressure, to be honest, but it's okay. I think
with a real way on that kid.
I know, right? Like how much ROI is college and all this and like or nanny and all that. So yeah, it's crazy. So you guys utilize time blocking. Is there any other things that you guys use to like you do
like time blocking? I
I think you don't.
No. We should. We have like almost like
We need to work on.
like a mental time block, but with not something that actually like, oh, like 8 o'clock we're gonna do this.
Oh yeah, I would say he doesn't utilize as much time blocking. I will.
Yeah.
And that helps. So, whichever works for each person.
Right. Do what we say, don't do what we do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm trying to be better about that because, I mean, we learn this all the time where it's like switching tasks is mentally exhausting, right? And so, like, I'll have a task list and I'm like, oh, I need to do this, or I'll respond to text here. It's just like my deep work or my focus zone is like never really there sometimes. And so I'm really trying to time block and or just like put my phone on do not disturb for certain times of the day. Yeah.
I will do that. That's helpful because especially if there's so many things going on and we have to compartmentalize, I will put my phone on like work mode, even if I'm like inside the house, just so I don't get the constant like stimulus of like seeing the text messages come up and I'm needing to like respond. So it helps like de-stress some of that.
When did you realize it was time to walk away from nursing, Michael?
I was really burned out from nursing and I felt like I needed like a few weeks away. And so I went on leave. And during that time, I went out on leave. I used that time where I'm normally at work to start like, working more on real estate. And when that happened, I was able to raise way more money within those, like I'll say like a month than I did the whole year. And I was able to buy more tenants, connect with way more people because I was giving 100% of my time to that rather than like finish a task at work and then go back on my phone for a few minutes and go back to my work task. So I started realizing how beneficial it was for me to just not be working. Of course, like me and Grace had a discussion about this of whether I should, just be my W-2. But, kind of seeing like what I was able to accomplish, during that time I was on leave made my decision a lot easier. Also, I did like my coworkers. So just, I felt like it was just time for me to step back.
Yeah, that's one thing I struggle with. I think it's a double-edged sword, right? Because like in nursing, we make great money, and so say I'm working 2, 3 days a week, and they're like, "Oh, do you want to work extra tomorrow?" I'm like, "Yeah, that'd be great because now it can fuel my fire to buy more real estate." But at the same time, I'm like, it's taking away my attention and time from being able to like actually focus and raise more capital or do more working in the business or on the business. And so it's just like navigating that is very challenging every single day. I'm like, do I work more? Do I work less?
Right. Yeah, and I'm working overtime almost every day.
Yeah.
And, I kind of felt like when I was working overtime, that means that I was not available, which means that Grace had to deal with my responsibilities of our business, which is like communication. And so she was basically taking on more work because of the fact that I was doing overtime. And so, you know, ultimately, me leading my W 2 made both of our lives easier for the fact that now we actually get to focus on each of our responsibilities.
Yeah, I think it'll depend on, I guess, like each person, like sometimes people say like just quit your job and go all in. And then, some people are like, hold on to it.
Yeah.
And I do think it'll naturally happen and that tension will show up where eventually there's kind of like no other option in a sense. That's how I feel like it happened
Yeah.
for us was it just didn't make sense for him to be at his W-2.
It was very tough to become Filipino. Like, I'm meant to be a nurse. Like, it was in my blood to be a nurse. Yeah, exactly. So, like, for me to quit my nursing job was very difficult. I still wake up at time where I'm like, oh, I should be going to work. I have my scrubs. I still have my scrubs and all that stuff. Yeah, it definitely has been a challenge for me to just say, like, I'm not going to a hospital today. I'm just gonna sit down on my computer, either buy more deal or buy more money, and that's what I do the rest of the day.
Yeah. Well, I think it's awesome. I commend you. I mean, most people won't do that, so it takes a lot of balls to do that. So I really commend anyone who does that.
Bigger mama, so like, I've been able to say this.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what are you guys looking forward to for most for 2026? Is there anything that you guys are going to implement differently from this year than last year? What's your biggest things to look forward to and changes you're making in your business?
I mean, we have huge goals. Like, our goal is to, like, again, like, we ended the year going under contract for another property, which ultimately we're going to keep. Like, that's something that, we're not going to back out of. We have a couple of properties that are going to be finished up with the renovation to figure out whether that could be a flip or, midterm rental. We want to go into other states, other cities. We want to focus on maybe like development, multifamily. So we have a lot of like different goals.
Yeah, I think our goal this year is really like, I feel like the last couple of years we've really built a good foundation, kind of went through the kinks. And now that we've got momentum, I feel like this year is just really taking all of that to another level and really also like partnering. So like we want to go into multifamily. So finding partners who are in that space to grow. And then, yeah, like our medium term, we want to continue doing more of that and selling more of that. And new builds, we want to take on more. So really it's just doing more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to like grow a beard. Filipinos, like, it's very rare for a Filipino to like have a full beard. It's either like patchy or like not connecting. So this is like my 5th time going to try it. Hopefully 5th time to try.
Doing this my whole life.
Yeah. It's just like almost a month and like nothing's there, but
Yeah. I said, what's the capital goal? How much you guys going to raise in 2026?
Let's see, I raised $30K yesterday. My goal is, I'll just say like $1 million for now.
For the year?
Why?
Yeah, like for the year. I'd say if last year was 8, let's bump another 2, maybe 10.
Yeah.
Okay. I like it. Well, I appreciate you guys so much for coming on the show. You guys brought so much value. I'm really looking forward to just sharing this and having everyone learn about private money lending, raising private capital, and midterm rentals. Grace and Michael, if people want to get to know more about you guys, where can they do so?
On social media?
So, mine, so I have Instagram. I'm usually just on Instagram. It's at michael.dc.santos. You'll see basically just the dogs, Grace, or like my sneaker customs that are on there. And then Grace is on there as well.
Yeah, and then mine's grace.k.santos. It is private, because since I'm still a pricing therapist, I didn't want clients. But if you send me a DM on it and just say, hey, I want to connect, and then I'll accept it. But yeah, you'll have to kind of search in for it.
Yeah. Just DM us. Let us know, what you want to do, what you need from us, and let's see how we can help you out.
Awesome. Well, if you guys are looking to earn double-digit returns backed by real estate, Grace and Michael are your go-tos. So I'll put all their information in the description below. But as always, guys, really appreciate you guys for tuning in. Share this with another who's found value, and appreciate you guys always. I'm Lorenzo. This is Grace and Michael. We'll see you guys on the next one. See ya.
Bye. Thanks for having us.
Yep.